Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ruach HaKodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace, love, salutations, and blessings to the house of David, which is the elect. And just some quick news. Just saw this. It says body found at Delta State University in Cleveland, Missouri, on day of scheduled centennial events. And this body that is found, of course, was a Jake. And the way that, he was found is what is particularly interesting, right? As we read in the article, he was found hung, all right, hung on a tree. So it says a student at Delta State University was found dead on Cleveland campus Monday morning, September 15th, which is today. The death happened during the university's scheduled centennial celebrations, forcing the events to be canceled. No cause of death has been confirmed. An official at DSU confirmed that a body was found in what is suspected to be a suicide. Now, they always say that, right? You find a Jake that was hung. You want to, say it's a suspected suicide. And they always, like I said, they always do this, especially when it comes with Jake. All right, they try to hold themselves not guilty, right? Want to place the blame on Jake, rather than, actually, really do the investigation and get to the real cause of the situation, right? Because even as I, seen people commenting on this on social media, you have a lot of Jake saying they're going to say it's a suicide because the post on social media, it just says, a person was found hung from a tree, right? And they don't say that it was a suspected suicide, but the narrative has already been played out, right? That narrative is something that they use time and time again, okay, to say, he killed himself, all right? But here it is. What was that? Last week you had 3 terrorist threats to, HBCUs, right? Historical black colleges / universities, in the wake of what happened in Utah to, CK, you see, and you already had a lot of these, Edomites that wanted to, place the blame on Jake, right? Being the ones who did it. But then when they found out, when it came to, light, that it was actually, one of their own, right? A Edomite from Utah, then they spin another narrative, that it had to do with, him being against anti-fascist and him being liberal and having a TG boyfriend, all this other, rhetoric that was coming out. But nonetheless, less than a week later, you have a Jake found dead, right, by, hanging, right, at a university over there in the Midwest, which, the Midwest is very known to be very racially divided. Okay, a lot of racial tension, in that region. Okay, Missouri, Mississippi, around that area. So let's read on. It says the cause of death has not been confirmed by the Bolivar County coroner. The body was found hanging in a tree in the middle of a campus behind pickleball courts near the courts of governors' dormitories. Something else, that I was reading as well. They were saying how, like, a lot of people, right, that do commit, suicide, which has to deal with, mental health or depression or what so have you. They do it in privacy, right? They do it, when, they're not around anybody, when it's, whether it be in their house or the dorms. They don't go out in a public setting, right, to do something like this. So that's just, another red flag. It says in a statement from the university, DSU said earlier today, Delta State University staff discovered a deceased individual on campus. University police and local authorities were immediately notified and are conducting an active investigation. At this time, we have no further details. So Yeah, I don't think that's the guy, but they're already trying to say that this was because you had this article. If you know somebody who needs mental health resources, right? So they're already trying to make it seem as though this was a self-inflicted thing, but a lot of people ain't buying it, right? I'm pretty wary to believe that, and at the end of the day, right? These devils are not, as the scripture says, they're going to hold themselves not guilty regardless, because that's how it's always been, right? In this kingdom, right? You go to the history, Esau is known to do that, right? To lynch Jake, okay? To do these things, and then they get away with it, right? You had Sandra Bland, right? She died, in the holding cell, and they try to say that she killed herself. It's something that happens time and time again. So like I'm looking for this scripture. Not guilty. Zechariah 11. Yep. Zechariah chapter 11 verse 4, it says, "Thus saith Yahweh power, feed the flock of the slaughter, whose possessors slay them." Right. And we are found, right, being possessed, right, in the hands of our enemies. That's why it says that in the book of Luke, that Yahweh Shai, right, being the horn of David, who should what? Deliver us from the hands of our enemy, right, and all them that hate us. Right. Luke chapter 1, verse 60, go straight to the point. Verse 61, it says that we should be saved, right, delivered, okay, rescued from our enemies. Who are our enemies? When you read Psalms, the 82nd chapter, it names a list of other nations, right, of people. Okay, and the first nation that it lists is Esau, Edom, who is in the current ruler of this world, right? Who are the ones that we are in the hands of at this very time here in Babylon, the Great America. So it says, and this is what Yahweh Shai is coming to do, right? To redeem us, right, or save us from the hand of our enemies and from the save us from our enemies and from the hand of all that hate us, right? And when you go to that word hand, let me see if it has it in here. Power, let's see. Yep, this is applied to God, symbolizing his might, activity, or power, okay, in determining or controlling the destinies of man. So yeah, the word hand is synonymous, right, in the scriptures with power. So the idea of hollowness, of grasping. So yeah, we are in the power of those that hate us, right? So that is why, we are looking for Yahweh Shai to deliver us out of his hand. All right, out of this devil's hand, our enemies. All right, grasp. So going back to Zechariah 11 verse 5, it says, "Whose possessors slay them." Now we can go into this word possessor, see what it is. All right, to get, acquire, create, buy, possess. Yeah, and the transatlantic slave trade was what? A trade of the souls of men, right? The bodies of the Israelites, okay, the southern kingdom, right? They even traded the northern kingdom as well. But it says what? Buying, right? To buy, to acquire. You had the slave auctioning blocks. See? So it says, "Whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell them say, Blessed be the Lord, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not." Right. Okay. And this is something that you got Esau even right now saying, right? They boasting themselves in their richness, their riches, right? Boasting themselves in this kingdom as if it's something that, they acquired or they built through their own, merit, through their own blood, sweat, and tears, when really it was off of the free labor of who? The Israelites, you see? And that was something that was done, that they did through a hatred, right? Through a disdain, right, that they had for the Israelites. And it's not because of the color of their skin. All right. It's way deeper than that, right? It goes back into the enmity, right, that is between Eve and her seed and the serpent and his seed. All right. And it goes, back to the foundational dichotomy of good versus evil, right? Righteousness against wickedness. See? But, like I said, I didn't want to make this too long. I just wanted to show this, right? And just goes to show what times that we're living in, right? The fact that you had that deletion of the CK, right? Getting shot at on the campus last week in Utah, right? And since then, there's just been a tension boiling between Democratic, Republican parties, right? Political parties, and even the tensions between nations, right? This national or racial divide is becoming more and more evident, right? In the scriptures, Yahweh forewarned that these were going to be signs of the end, that you were going to have nation against nation, right? You was going to have Egyptian against Egyptian. You see, so So yeah, that's pretty much it. I didn't want to dwell too much on it. Lord willing, this was edifying unto the elect, giving all praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai Bashem Rakakwadash. Shalom.